Hi, so the channel's just received 1,000 subscribers, so thanks for that. Now what I'm going to do with this one, it's it's a good time to do a looking back and looking forward. And nothing says looking back and looking forward in World of Warcraft like a good old compare vanilla to the current expansion. Not to worry though, I'm not going to be looking back with rose-tinted goggles and saying, oh, if only we had vanilla again. It's not that. What I'm actually going to focus on are 5 changes in this video that everyone loves and we would not want to see go, but have nonetheless changed the game, perhaps unintentionally, in a way that perhaps we're not all that happy about. Now this is intended to be the first of a 3-part vlog series. So the 5 things then. The first one is loot from quests. Now, when leveling in 2005, mobs, first of all, were actually quite tough, or they seemed to me. They certainly took more than a couple of hits to kill. And one of the reasons for this, I would say, is because of the loot we got. Loot we got from random BOEs and loot we'd get from quest rewards. And a lot of the time, it was quite common to be wearing greens that were like 10, 20 item levels or levels, didn't have item levels then, below your character. Not unusual at all. And the consequence of this would mean you'd come up to a group of mobs that you need to kill for your quest, or just to kill to get them out of the way because you want to pass through them. And you would carefully consider, first of all, where you were. You'd try and pick off just 1 or 2 rather than a whole group if you were on your own. And you'd look around for patrolling mobs to make sure someone didn't come along and smack you in the back of the head while you're occupied. So you would consider all these things in a way that we don't now. And the reason for that was because you'd turn quests in, you'd get a reward. That reward may or may not have been useful. And I don't just mean useful as in, was it an upgrade or not? You don't expect to get an upgrade from every quest. We don't get that now. But what we do get now is every quest reward is suitable for us. So as my paladin, I will never now, in newer content, get a quest where I turn it in and I get a choice of cloth belt or leather braces. That just doesn't happen. If it's armor, it will always be plate. And if I'm retribution spec'd, it will always be damage stats. Always the case. It may not be an upgrade, but it will always be suitable. Which means if you're leveling up now and you've got the very basic, so in Legion, for example, if you just leveled a character at the start of Legion and got it ready for WoD and you hadn't done any Warlords of Draenor content, you might, and you haven't got any heirlooms or anything like that, you might be item level 600-ish gear. Just what a lot of my alts have before heirlooms came in, just from questing. So the mobs, the initial mobs in Legion, have to be tuned so that someone with 600 gear can kill them. It'll be tough, but they can kill them. But then once you've done a few quests and you're getting the 100 item levels better gear, or virtually, you can mince through them as easily as anyone else, to the point where now we don't look at mobs and go, oh, I'll just pull a couple back. You go straight in, don't you? You just go in. If something else happens along, great. It's more efficient, isn't it? It's more efficient leveling. We're getting more mobs. They're coming to us. We don't even have to go to them. So this has fundamentally changed the game. Another thing that's fundamentally changed it, and again, you know, has been widely supported by the community, is organised quest hubs. During Cataclysm, they tidied up the level 1 to 60 zones and made nice, organised, very efficient quest hubs. So you go to a little area and you get a load of quests, and then you go somewhere else that's not that far away and you kill a load of stuff or interact with a load of stuff. And then you go back and you turn in your quest rewards, and then you get a breadcrumb quest that says, right, go over there now. And it's not that far away, it's in the same zone. And those sorts of things existed before as well, but you also had quests that would send you a long way off. Sometimes to do a quest, it would involve going to several places at once. Not literally at once, but to do the quest, you'd have to go to several places. Perhaps several zones. You know, the quest hubs didn't always give you quests in that zone. So you might have to do a lot of travelling. I remember when I was first leveling, and I did quests in Elwyn Forest, my human paladin, of course, in Westfall, in Dunmore, Lochmadan, Wetlands, Darkshore, Ashenvale, Thousand Needles, Stone Talon Mountains, all before I was level 30. Why? Because some crazy elf told me to. I just got a quest that says, go there for this one thing, and I might give you 5 silver. Oh, all right then. And you look at the map. Nowadays, you'd look at the map, you go, hang on a minute, I've got to go all the way over there on foot. Piss off. No, I did. So I quested, I actually completed quests in all of those zones I just mentioned. And that is to say nothing of the other zones, higher level zones, that I had to get through to get to them. That I had to walk through very carefully. Because when you're walking through Arathi Highlands and you see a big spider with a skull where its level is supposed to be, you know you're in a bit of danger. Yeah. I mean, the exploration, you know, I experienced so many different zones. Now we don't do that. And you can argue, of course, you're not going to have as many zones in expansion, but we have been getting fewer and fewer. When Legion comes around, we will have 4 leveling zones for 10 levels. Let's think about that for a minute. 4. There's another zone as well, a 5th zone, but that's for level cap content. So the exploration, I mean, it's all now go to an area, get quest. You're questing in that same area. Once you've exhausted that area, go to another one. And people like that, it's more efficient. People are very focused on the leveling. They don't want to be told to piss off somewhere miles away and then come back and then get another quest that pisses them off to somewhere else and then come back. So again, very much supported by the community. It's definitely a feature that people would not want to see gone. It's not a feature that Blizzard have done despite what the community wanted. It's very much in line with the wishes of the community. But it does mean that the exploration just isn't there anymore. I mean, just to give one example of the sort of quest that used to exist. My paladin at level 20 got a quest for a weapon, much as you do now. And what do you do now to get that weapon? In the paladin's case, you sign up to a dungeon, which I'm going to talk about next, Shadowfang Keep. Just go in there, collect a few bits, go back, get your weapon. What I had to do was I did have to go to Shadowfang Keep for a few things, and this is in a horde area, and this means going through several high-level zones to get it, that were high-level for me at the time, at like low-level 20s. It took me several levels to get this stuff as well. I had to go to Lochmadan for something. I had to beat up some ogres or something, I seem to remember, for some ore. I can't remember the exact details now. I had to go to Blackfathom Depths for something. I think I had to go somewhere else as well, I forget now. All these different zones just for one quest. And that tells, I mean, and as I was doing this, I was thinking to myself, should we even call them quests anymore? We talk about quests. We just use the word quests to mean mission now. Because are they quests? If we look up what the word quest means, it means a long or arduous way to get something. Well, now they're neither long nor arduous. So do we really have quests in the game anymore? I would say the legendary is a quest, but that's in Legion, that's gone. Now we just club balls over the head for our legendary, so that'll be gone. I would also say, although it's not called a quest, but it's the only quest left in the game come Legion, that unlocking the achievements to get, say, flying, for example, and the other achievement metas that exist in the game, they are quests, you could argue. I think that's all there's left for questing. Then on to dungeons. Now, there's a lot that can be said for dungeons. I've recently started a vanilla series that looks at some dungeons. It will look at other things as well from vanilla, and some of the things that are still left in now that maybe newer players don't understand what they're about. There's 3 out already. There's another one coming out this weekend. And what it shows is there was just a lot more to do in dungeons. The dungeons themselves were a fulfilling piece of content in WoW in the way that they're not now. And I don't, and they're not going to be in Legion. They're going to be made more relevant in Legion, absolutely. But they're still not going to be content in the sense that they were. I mean, if you think about it this way, you had to assemble your own group. So it could take you half an hour to do that unless there were a load of people in guild that was 1 tank, 1 heal and 3 DPS all ready to go. So it could take you half an hour or more to get the group together. Then it would take you time to travel to the dungeon, or at least a few of you to travel to operate the summoning stone there. I think that took like 2 players. So you'd have to have at least 2 people get there. Then, and the summoning stone didn't work as it does now. It was a bit of a pain in the ass. In reality, you would probably all just want to get there. So once you've spent a good hour or so just getting to the dungeon, getting inside it, you were invested. You were invested in the people that you'd collected. You would probably been chatting to all but the last one to join the group for quite a while anyway. You've already got friendly with them. And then you get into the dungeon. You're obviously you don't want it to be a quick 15-minute race to the end without talking to anyone, because bloody hell, who's going to spend an hour getting a group together for that? Then there's the quests you're doing there. I mean, recently it's just been a case of you just automatically get quests, or there's maybe in MOP there was just an NPC at the start of the dungeon, you pick up your quests from them. And then and they don't even seem to be bothering with that now. And what was the purpose for those quests? They were just something to get your gear. That's all people saw them. While you were leveling, it was also a good experience. That was it. There were quests in vanilla where the rewards could be crap. Some of them weren't, some of them were. But people would still want to do them. And people would want to help you do them because they were fun events sometimes. And the other thing about quests, and they're going to make a little change in Legion, but not a big one. In Legion, there are going to be major quest lines in each zone, as there are now. But it's going to culminate in a quest to go into a dungeon. Now, that has something that has been missing for a little while. But it's coming back. But the way you'll complete those quests is just to do the dungeon. You'll just do the dungeon, pick something off the last boss. There's no side bit to it in the way there was. I mean, I remember in Lower Blackrock Spire, for example, there was one called Mother's Milk where you had to get bitten by a spider, get poisoned basically, and then you had to run out of the dungeon to the burning steps and go to the NPC for them to extract the venom or something. I forget the details exactly. Now, you'd never get away with that nowadays. Could you imagine getting that nowadays and having to say to your group, and could you just wait there a minute, please? I'm just going to spend 10 minutes running out the dungeon to go and hand this quest in. At the time, it was going to take a long time to do this dungeon. A couple of hours, maybe. So, absolutely, yeah, great. A piss break. Excellent. I'll go and get a biscuit. They were quite, and you were up front at the start as well, saying, I want to do these quests. All right. And they'd be well up for it. It'd be nice to have a little break. While you do that, they can go and have a piss, as I say. You'd never get away with quests like that anymore, little interesting quests. I mean, we just queue up for the dungeon. It instantly teleports us to it. The game's assembled the group for us. And there's just no difficulty in getting that group. So there is, as I say, there's nothing invested at all in the dungeon. And I don't see it as a dumbing down of dungeons. Some people, I think, have seen this as a dumbing down of dungeons. I don't. I see it as what was a really good feature. The Looking for Dungeon tool was developed from TBC. It slowly evolved to the point where we have it now, which I think really appeared in its modern form in Cataclysm as a finished product. And It's a great tool. No one would want Blizzard to announce, by the way, we're getting rid of it. You can make your own groups, in the way that you sort of have to for Mythic Dungeons, say. No one would want that, or not many people would want that, I should say. I'm not going to say no one. But I think a lot of people do miss, especially the veteran players, do miss the fact that dungeons themselves were an event. It wasn't just something, right, let's get this over with. Because that's the attitude you go into a dungeon. It's, let's get this over with as quickly and efficient as possible. It's like, why are you even doing it? And the reason they're doing it these days is not for the dungeon itself. It's for whatever they're getting out of the dungeon. To which point I have to think to myself, why are you playing the game if you're not enjoying this? Because it is the ultimate endgame content. Raiding, which is my raison d'etre in the game, is not done by a lot of people. There's like maximum of 20% of players really raid, if that. Whereas anyone who gets to level cap does, in fact, anyone who doesn't get to level cap does dungeons. Dungeons are a core PvE part of the game. And for them not to be enjoyed for themselves just seems a little bit sad. Another one, objectives on the map. When this came in, I was absolutely delighted. I'd seen it before in other games, and I was really glad it came to World of Warcraft. And when I say objectives on the map, what it means you get a quest, and you can see on the map where you need to go to get it. You even get a big yellow indicator on the mini-map, if you can't be asked to open your map. It's a great feature. But what has it actually done? Well, it has had a side effect again on our exploration of the game. We used to be told that down a road on the left was something to deal with. It might be a short distance down the road. It might be a long distance down the road. We had no idea. We had to just go by the quest text, and it was a little bit vague. Sometimes you'd be running down this road, you think, I've been going down here for a few minutes. Have I gone too far? Have I missed it? Am I just going to carry on running and never see it? So you used to doubt yourself. So what you had to do is you had to pay very, very careful attention to the landscape. You were looking out for clues. You'd stop every now and then to read the quest again. You actually read quests, blimey. But now, yeah, you don't. You just see it on the map. Or you see the big yellow arrow. When you get to the right area, the mobs you need to kill are clearly indicated. You don't have to check in the quest log to see which ones you need to kill again. It's clearly indicated. Objectives, if you have to interact with them, they either glow bright blue or they've got a giant animated yellow cog above them. We can't miss anything. We absolutely can't. The idea of being on a quest and thinking, I don't know what to do on this, is pretty rare now. All you do is you move smartly from where you pick up the quest to where you need to go, and you miss out everything in between. And my fifth is the hottest potato of all, which is mounts. Not just flying mounts, mounts in general. Now, it used to be the case that you couldn't get a mount at all until level 40. I remember exactly what I was doing and exactly where I was, and I mean exactly where I was, when I first hit level 40. And this was nearly 11 years ago. It was the little island in Stranglethorn Vale with the water elementals. And the reason I remember distinctly where I was is because it was such a momentous event. I don't remember what I was doing when I hit level 100. And that was a much more recent level. I only got that in the last year, or a bit over a year now. Strange, isn't it? But it was so momentous because it meant I could get a mount. Mounts were really important, and in fact, questing in Stranglethorn Vale was the ideal place to make you appreciate mounts, because it was a huge zone with a huge variety of quests, and in terms of levels, you could get quests there that would be suitable for late level 20s, round about level 30, I think, is when I entered Stranglethorn Vale quest to the north, especially the Nessingwary quest, the murder everything that moves quest. And as you move south, higher and higher level stuff, and you go right to the south, and there was stuff for even like level people in their early level 40s. Of course, you wouldn't just quest in there from like level 29 up to 43 or something. You would go to other zones as well. You'd do a few quests here, then you'd go somewhere else and then come back and stuff like that. But yeah, during that period, I did keep going back to Stranglethorn Vale. And you'd be making the long run from the north of Stranglethorn Vale all the way down to Booty Bay. And every now and then, someone would pass you on a mount. And you'd think, oh, I want one of those. Oh, it's so quick, it's so fast. I want one. And so when you got it, you were really happy. I was very happy. But what it meant was, up until that point, again, you enjoyed more of the landscape. You got to know it in a way that I don't know the zones now, because you move so quickly. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying they should ban all mounts while we're leveling, not just the flying mounts, because we want our mounts. No, I'm not suggesting. I don't think anyone would suggest they should ban all mounts while leveling. But it does have this consequence that because we can move so quickly, we don't have to consider routes to places. We don't have to, look at our map and think, okay, maybe go around that way to avoid those mobs. If there's a load of mobs in our way and we don't want to kill them, we'll just ride through them. We'll just go through them. We don't care. They'll snap back at some point. They're not going to dismount us. And in terms of speed of movement, I mean, of course, that's just leveling. Leveling is a relatively small amount of our game time when we're playing this game regularly. And the speed of movement that we can get, which is up to 310%, a little more sometimes, depending on your class. I get an extra 20% as a paladin, of course, mounted speed. With the flying mount, if you max out your skill, means that you don't see the world at all for most of the time. You just don't see it. I mean, there's no more having to ride through the opposite faction's PvP guards to get to Diamond, which is what I had to do. You just fly over it. Even in TBC, where you could, again, fly over the enemy base, they put up a bit of an effort because they had PvP guards on flying mounts. So if you just set yourself to auto fly out to a place and go and get a biscuit or whatever, or go for a piss, you might find yourself having been shot down because there were guards there that would shoot you. It wasn't as bad on the very fast flying mount, but certainly the slow one, you would not fly over an enemy base because you would very probably be shot down. Now they don't even bother to try and do that. It's just whatever. You can fly over quite low down over an enemy base. Now, no one gives a shit. When I changed faction from Alliance to Horde this expansion, and of course I kept going to the Alliance base in Tanan Jungle by mistake. Obviously seeing my mistake before I actually landed, because you see all the guards are red. But I was still able to get pretty low down and no one bothered trying to shoot me or anything. So it does, I think, invalidate it. I mean, initially, just getting onto the flying thing, because I can well see why Blizzard wanted to get rid of it. At the same time, and I've said this before, the genie's out of the bottle. They absolutely should not try. They won't try now. They've learnt their lesson because of the backlash they got. Was horrendous. But it's been in the game for so long now, it's just a part of the game and it has to stay. And initially you can look at it, you can say, well, you can actually enjoy more of the world. And to begin with, that was part of it. When they decided to roll flying out to the old level 1 to 60 zones during Cataclysm, what a lot of people were excited about, I feel, is being able to see things that you couldn't before. Because there were now that high peaks that were very difficult to get to, sometimes impossible to get to without bugging stuff. And now we could just fly over it, so we could see a new wonder, and that was great. But it also meant we missed out on the rest of it, because during Cataclysm, where we could fly right from the start, there was no real need to travel along the ground except when on quests. Any other time you just flew. So you were missing so much of the world. And as a result, you sometimes wonder, did Blizzard even make that world with as much detail as they did before? Because they know we're going to miss it. We're not going to see it. because all we now do is look at... There's no journey anymore. We don't make any journeys in World of Warcraft. We have where we start, which at the moment is our garrison. And there's where we want to get to. And then all there's left is the time it takes to move from one to the other in a straight line. For which all we're seeing is the sky, unless we happen to angle our camera downwards. We don't see anything else for most of the game. During leveling, you could argue we see more of it because they're not letting us fly during the leveling process. But after that, we'll be working on our achievements. Yes, we can't unlock the achievements during the first, but when the first patch comes out, we will be able to. So we will still spend most of the next expansion, even in Legion, just flying, not travelling in the normal way, not seeing the world. We'll just see the sky and the view from the sky. And that's a bit of a shame. But anyway, those are my 5 things that I think changed the game. I'm not, I'll note again, criticising any of the changes. All of them are good quality of life features. And I think most of the player base do appreciate them and would not like them removed. We know in the case of flying, they definitely wouldn't like them removed. But they do all contribute to a lack of a living world in the game. And this frequently comes up for discussion. And I sort of think to myself, is it an inevitable product of all these quality of life features that individually we love? So let me know what you think. Are there any features that you'd miss if they weren't in, but you also knew they're making you lose a part of the experience by having them? So comments below as usual, please. And as I noted at the start, this is a 3-part discussion. The next part will be on the RPG elements of WoW. I'm hoping that will be out next week, but might be slightly later. In the meantime, thanks very much for supporting the channel again. Keep your feedback coming, whether good or bad. And for those interested in that Vanilla Archive series, the 4th part, Blackrock Spire, is coming this weekend. So keep an eye out for that. See you later.